So I've wanted to create a personal blog for quite some time, and this would just be a place where I could, blog about books and things that are not Linux related. I already have the LinuxCast blog where I blog about tech stuff and Linux stuff, but I wanted somewhere where it was more personal, something that wasn't shoved along with all the channel stuff. So I've purchased my domain name quite a long time ago, and actually several variations of it, but that's beside the point. And I've gone through the process of trying to figure out how I wanted to go do this. And originally I was going to use Hugo. Now Hugo is fantastic, and it worked really, really well for the LinuxCast blog. It did take a lot of effort because basically I couldn't find a theme that I really, really liked, so I had to create my own. And while I started from a template or whatever, I was able to build something that I liked and was similar enough to what I had that was fine. But if I hadn't been able to do that, I would have had to go find another theme. And the biggest downside of Hugo, at least in my opinion, is that there just aren't a ton of themes out there. Now, maybe there is some wayward repository of themes out there that I've never seen before. I don't know. But I never found those. And the ones that they kind of offer on their website that other people have made are just kind of meh. I didn't like any of them. So they were either overly complex or they were too simple. And I was looking for something that I wanted, that was more me. And I didn't really feel like doing my own again. Like, it just wasn't something that was really interesting to me. I was able to do it for the LinuxCast one, but that was mostly because I had a template based off from what I was using before. And I didn't want to create something from scratch for my personal blog. So I decided to scrap my idea of going with Hugo, and I wanted to go to something different. Now, there are other static site generators out there, none of which I'm very familiar with. So I decided I was going to go back to something that I've used many times in the past and have had some success with, and that's WordPress. Now, I haven't actually used WordPress in probably 7 or 8 years. When I left using WordPress, they were just introducing the Gutenberg editor, I think. Now, maybe that was like 5 years ago, whatever the time was, but it's been a while since I used it. But I left it when they were first doing the Gutenberg thing, and the reason why I left was because Gutenberg was stupid. I hated it, and I knew that it was going to be the future of WordPress, but, I figured, how bad could it be? So I purchased myself a VPS, got WordPress up and running on it, and guys, WordPress is so bad. It's so bad. Now, there are some aspects of it that are really good. So let's be positive. The New Year's resolution of trying to be more positive, I suppose, can come into play here. There are still a lot of themes for WordPress. If you want to not mess around with doing your own themes, you can go find a theme on WordPress, whether you want to pay for it or you want to find a free one. Chances are there's one out there that's going to suit your needs. That was the case for me. Now, I did end up paying for one. I don't mind paying for things that I know I'm going to use. And, it was like $70 or whatever, which, I suppose isn't too bad for what it is. And, it's a good theme. It has a lot of different features, it does all the things. You can have different layouts. So if I wanted to use it for a different blog, I could have both and they look different. Lots of customization, all the bells and whistles, which is what I like to see. And also, there's still a wide ecosystem of plugins out there for you. And granted, they still have all the problems that WordPress plugins have always had, being security and weighing your WordPress site down till it feels like you're tying a cinder block to its ankles and throwing it into the ocean. So it has all the problems that plugins bring, but you do get an option for having all these things, and it does allow you to add functionality to your website. So there's that. Also, some of the UI is still basically the same. Things like managing users and categories and tags, most of that stuff is still exactly the same as it always has been. But Gutenberg is shit. It is absolute garbage. I'm going to show you guys this thing right here, right now. This is my WordPress installation on my blog. Now, I did not include the URL for my blog. If you want to go read it or whatever, it's mtwb.blog. But that's beside the point. This is Gutenberg. I think they still call this Gutenberg. It's what was called Gutenberg. It's done via blocks. So you want to insert a block or whatever, you can do so. Now, you don't have to use the blocking section. It will create them automatically for you. If you just want to do a heading or whatever, you can do that, right? It will do the heading thing for you. It will do links for you, whatever. It's fine if you don't want to use the blocking mechanism, but it's so clunky still. Everything feels so separated and not cohesive. And it could have been done so much better. It feels, I hate the word bloated. I really do. I think that it's overused in every community, everywhere, by people who think that if it's not suckless, it's automatically bloated. But in this case, this UI for the editor is just overly complicated and bloated. It has too much shit going on. Bring back the WYSIWYG editor. Now, I know that there's a plugin for you to do that, and I'll probably end up using that, but it should be default. This should be like a plugin that's for people who like it. Now, maybe there are people out there who do like it. I'm not going to, shame those people. You can like what you like, but I hate this with a passion. It makes writing in it hard. Like overly difficult where you have to mess around. For example, let's say you did want to actually use one of those silly blocks. It gives you a list of some of the blocks, but those aren't all the blocks that you can see. You actually have to go up here to this thing here, which is list all the blocks, and you can then scroll through like dozens and dozens of blocks that you can use. And okay, I suppose that adds extensibility to your ability to make a blog post, but do you really need a separate one for GIF? And also, some of these things aren't here by default. Some of them come with the theme, some of them come with different plugins, so plugins can add them to here, which makes this list just even way longer than it needs to be. Like, finding what you want is a horrible pain in the ass. And yes, there is a search functionality up here, but you have to know what you're searching for, what it's called. It's not always called what you want it to be called. It's a horrendous mess and a conglomeration of shit that you just don't need. Like none of this stuff you need, okay? Fine, tack it on someplace out of the way. Just make it easy to write. And it doesn't always feel like it's easy to write. What I've been doing actually is I installed the Jetpack plugin, which really slows shit down, but whatever. And that allows me to do Markdown. And that allows me to do things like, headline like this, and and then when I get out of it or whatever, it'll change that to where it needs to be. So I can use 100% pure Markdown. If I want to write it in Vim, I can do that and then copy and paste it in here. But Markdown's not supported out of the box. You have to use the Jetpack plugin in order to do it, which requires a username and password for WordPress.com, which is dumb. And you have to synchronize your blog with your personal self-hosted blog with WordPress.com and have those two accounts linked, which is not something that I really want to do. Why can't I just use Markdown? Markdown is a standard. Everyone knows Markdown. And if you don't want to, have WYSIWYG as an option for everybody, maybe make that default and then Markdown as an alternative. Why make it so fucking complicated and bad? WordPress is the backbone of half the fucking internet. And people who use it put up with this shit. I'm sure by now most people are used to this. I'm just seeing it now again because I was away for a little while. Is it possible that, maybe I'm just having a little bit of a sticker shock here and, I too will get used to this in the future? Maybe. More likely I'll just continue to do the Markdown thing, which I have been doing. I'll write it in Vim, I'll paste it into a Markdown block and have at it. We'll never see any of this bullshit over here. It just, I don't need any of that stuff. I don't want any of it. Take your AI assistant Jetpack and shove it up your ass. I don't need it. I'll write my own stuff. If it's bad, then it's on me and not on some random robot in Texas or wherever. Okay, so that was a little bit of a rant. Honestly, if it wasn't for the editor, it wouldn't be so bad. It was easy to set up. It was basically the same as it was in yesteryear. You gotta get your database and all that stuff together, and it was basically the same. But the editor just makes it so astonishingly hard and stupid to use. And I don't like it, so I needed to rant about it. And I know it has nothing to do with Linux. So if you're here for the Linux stuff, which the vast majority of you are, probably everybody is, because it's the Linux cast, I apologize for having to rant about something that's not Linux, but this is open source stuff, so there you go. WordPress. Don't use it unless you have to. Now, am I going to switch away from it? Probably not. I've gone through the trouble. I've spent the money for the theme. I like the blog the way it is. I can work around the nonsense, at least for now. We'll see. Anyways, I have no plans of moving away, so despite all the ranting that you just heard, I'm going to suffer through. Anyways, that's it for this one. If you have thoughts on this, you can leave those in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Mastodon or Odyssey. Those links will be in the video description. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/thelinuxcast. I'm trying to slow down with this stuff because I've been told that I tend to rush through the ending. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit. You can support me on YouTube and Ko-fi. Those links will be in the video description as well. If you haven't already, leave a thumbs up on this video. It'd really help the channel. I'd really, really appreciate it. You can also support me by going over to the store, which is available at shop.thelinuxcast. I always fuck that URL up. I absolutely mess it up. Shop.thelinuxcast.org is the store where you can go find all sorts of awesome merch, all the proceeds for which go to make me make better content for you guys. So there you go for that. Thanks everybody who does support me on Patreon and YouTube. You can Ko-fi. You guys are awesome. Thank you so very much for your support. I truly do appreciate it. You guys are just, again, pure awesomeness. So thank you so very much for your support. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you everybody for watching. I'll see you next time.